the Canadian government paid me to work for a private American shipping company, and we ship things into Iraq via Kuwait during the height of the Iraq War, basically. So yeah,
That's
in
pretty
like
crazy.
yeah, it's pretty nuts. And I thought I was gonna be doing something else. I thought I was gonna be like working like like for like humanitarian purposes and like building hospitals for children or that's kind of how they sold it to me. And then I
Okay.
got there and I was like, I remember like it took me a long time to figure this out, probably way too long, but it took me like 6 months. And I remember just turning to my boss and going, "Hey, I think we're war profiteers."
Hey man, how's it going?
Not bad. How are you doing?
Not bad. I like that you
Pretty
got the
good.
Honest Ed's shirt on.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize I had that.
Nice.
Yeah, represent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I yeah, I'm recovering from hip surgery, so I'm in bed.
So it's a good time to get you on
But
the podcast.
I mean, I got nothing else to do. I can't
Yeah.
do comedy right now.
Ah, it sucks. Yeah, the
Yeah. But
stand-up part, I guess, is pretty important, right?
yeah, but it's good to take a break.
Yeah, right. And then you'll be
It's
excited to jump back into it.
I'm like reading, editing videos, and it's stuff I just wouldn't get around to and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Why'd you have to get your hip done? Or what happened,
Uh
I guess I should say.
no, well, when I was like 19, I tore my hip, and then it just like playing hockey and playing football growing up is they're like the two worst things you can do. And I did both of them. And yeah, I've been living in pain for a long time. And then it just this time usually I tweak it and it gets better, and this time it just didn't get better, I guess because I'm old. So I needed to get like
Mm,
I can get a replacement. I got like it resurfaced and the labrum sewn back together. So, you know, it is what it is, but
yeah,
I'll feel better because of it in the long
yeah.
run, hopefully.
That was cool too of Nate Bargatze to make that video shouting you out. Or I guess he was on a podcast shouting you out
Yeah, he
about
was on his podcast. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. He's a good dude.
Yeah. What's that feel like, man? Because like you born in Ottawa, moved to Toronto to do comedy. Did you start comedy in Ottawa?
Kind of. I did a couple open mics, and then I just wanted to like spend some time in New York. I was in like my post university travel zone in my head,
Hmm.
and I had quit. I quit a job with the Canadian government in Budapest,
Oh
Hungary,
wow.
because I wanted to do comedy. I wanted to do stand up and try and pursue it for a couple years, see what happens. And I just felt like I was like 25 and I was like getting old, starting this late. I should go to New York for a summer and I'll catch up, and then I'll move to Toronto from Ottawa. Anyway, long story short, I did comedy like 4 or 5 times in Ottawa. I did I don't know if you know what Absolute, but it's like a
Yeah.
kill box. And I thought it was like the amateur night where the audiences are extra kind and they give extra leeway. And obviously, being an amateur and a novice, I didn't know that. And I just thought I was so good at comedy. So, and I sucked, but I thought I had a good set, and I was like, I think I'm ready for Letterman. And I just moved to New York without any work papers.
I
Yeah,
love the delusion of comedians.
it's
Like
insane.
I was the
Yeah,
exact same way when I started. I was like,
yeah,
so when am I getting that Rogan invite? I mean, it should be
yeah.
coming any day now.
I'm pretty sick.
Yeah,
And
I think I'm pretty cool.
a book I read by Steve Martin, who came up 100 years ago,
Yeah.
said that they will find you. So they'll find me in Ottawa,
Yeah.
you know?
If you just
No,
are
they won't.
so good, no, they're not gonna
Yeah,
find you.
yeah,
I had that delusion shattered completely recently where I was like, because I've been doing comedy almost 13 years. and I
Oh,
did like
nice.
a lot of it in Toronto, and I started
Yeah.
sort of in Kingston, Ottawa, that little circuit of
Did
bouncing
we do,
back and forth.
did we know each other in Toronto?
I think we were probably like on a show or something together, but I don't
Yeah.
know if we were like you're a couple classes ahead of me
Yeah.
in that regard. Like you had already been when I went to Toronto, you were already like headlining and doing like those kind of shows. So
Mm.
probably didn't notice me bopping around trying to get better at comedy in
I,
Toronto.
I, I drank a lot in those days, so
Okay.
it's just full weeks. I don't, I'm like, well, maybe I met you. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like there's years we
Yeah.
can't piece together, but yeah, whatever. But last or like on Saturday, I host a show in Ottawa now where I live, and
Oh, nice.
I
Where?
just I'm in like well, not really Ottawa. I'm in like Hogsback area, so like Nepean.
Yeah, 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 whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I like it. I moved from Toronto during the pandemic because I was like, this place is turning into Gotham City, and I want to get the fuck out. And then Ottawa's closer to family, so I was like, let me just go chill out in a calmer city for a little bit.
sure.
But then I was hosting last night at one of my own shows and decided to try new material and just ate a plate of shit. Just completely humbled myself of like, okay, so you're not as funny as you think you are.
Well, it's new stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, of course. That's just the way it's gonna be. What did you
yeah.
do though in Budapest? You said for the government.
Uh, I, uh, I worked for the Canadian government paid me to work for a private American shipping company, and we shipped things into Iraq via Kuwait, during the height of the Iraq War, basically. So, yeah,
That's
in
pretty
like,
crazy.
yeah, it's pretty nuts. And I thought I was gonna be doing something else. I thought I was gonna be like working like like for like humanitarian purposes, and like building hospitals for children, or that's kind of how they sold it to me. And then I
Okay.
got there and I was like, I remember like it took me a long time to figure this out, probably way too long, but it took me like 6 months. And I remember just turning to my boss and going, "Hey, I think we're war profiteers."
They keep
He
asking me to give
goes,
these bullets to those
"Yeah,
kids.
yeah, yeah." And then we take the money and they give it
Yeah.
to us in bags with dollar signs on it. Um,
Uh,
and he was an Australian guy, and he was like, "Yeah, mate." He goes, it's classic. It's classic mob mentality. You break someone's windows, and then you go, "Hey, turns out I fix windows." I remember he said that to me, and I was like, this sucks. And then
yeah.
I just did a bad job, and they didn't fire me because the Canadian government was paying me.
Ah,
And I just sort of partied all the time and showed up hungover. And then they were going to transfer me to Prague to head up the like sales over there because I could do sales with like corporate sales for it doesn't matter, corporate moving
yeah.
wing of the company. And I was just like, that sounds like fun on paper, but really I'll just be in an office with a bunch of sad, middle-aged, alcoholic men. Um, and I want to do comedy, and I'm gonna get a kid. Like I'll get a kid at some point. I'll get a mortgage, and then I'll be locked down, and I'll the whole
Yeah.
life I'll like resent my family because I didn't get to try stand up. And so yeah, I just was like, I got to make a break for it now, and I did. And I moved back to Ottawa, and I went from working, you know, working on logistics for rebar, to go through Tashkent, Uzbekistan into northern Iraq, and finding drivers who would do that, and finding the right truck drivers so that wouldn't be scared about dying,
A wild
and
job, man.
dealing with Halliburton and Iraqi customs. I went from all that to delivering sandwiches in Ottawa and living at my parents' house.
Life is fucking weird, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, but I made it show. I was so much happier delivering
Yeah, it's
sandwiches. I was like, I felt like I'm on the right track. I just got to save like $2,000, and then I'm not paying rent because I'm living at my parents' house, and then I'm gonna move to Toronto, I'm gonna start comedy. I'm gonna rent some crappy room, live with my aunt and uncle for a couple weeks till I find some room, and then find a waiting tables job. All you need is like 2K. I can do it. And then my friend, then I just was like, my friend like got me like a, he was like, you want to come live on the beach in Costa Rica for a month, 2 months? I was like, yeah. And we blew all the money doing that. And then I was like,
Oh,
I had no
fuck.
money. And then my friend of a friend got me my college friend, university friend, got me a job, a summer job in New York for just for the summer. And I was like, perfect. I'll
Yeah.
catch up because I've been procrastinating. And then I'll move to Toronto and I'll have like, a half hour
Doing
of
New York
material
to
after a
Toronto is
summer.
crazy, bro.
What's that?
Doing New York to Toronto is like Benjamin buttoning your comedy
I
career.
know. And that's what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I ended up going to New York, and then I ended up getting fired for that job because I got a logistics job working for like a summer camp,
Okay.
a rich summer camp, rich kid summer camp.
Why'd you get fired
And
doing that?
I sent a kid to the wrong city in Italy
No.
because I was like super tired and probably like just super tired from doing open mics all night in the city, and it was like way in the suburbs. You had to take like a choo-choo train to get up there,
Yeah.
and like after the subways, I mean. And then yeah, and then they fired me. But then I was like, well, I already paid my rent for this month. All I need to do is eat. I'll look for like a take waiting job. And I had worked as like a busboy at that point in my life in Ottawa at the fish market in Ottawa and in the market. And then yeah, and then I got like some job, some under the table. I just got paid in tips. I
Yeah,
didn't
because
have
you didn't
work
have
paper.
permits or anything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then yeah, and then once you have a job without an expiry date, you
Yeah.
start making friends, and then you have an apartment. And I got an internship at Vice. I started working at Vice in Brooklyn, and they're like, I'm going to all the cool parties, and I'm like, dude, I can't leave New York. It's the greatest city in the world. I got completely addicted to New York.
Mm.
I just, I was like, pump it to my veins. I love this so much. I can't leave. And I basically spent 5 years. Basically, I spent 3 years trying to get a work visa from within America,
It's
and
hilarious.
2 years in complete denial that it was impossible to do.
Uh,
And then by the fifth year, I was like, I got like a Conan audition, and I had to turn it down because it was illegal for me to do Conan because they didn't have work papers. And I got arrested for like my friend was doing graffiti and cops attacked us, and then I punched a cop, and I was like
wait.
getting real, and I went to jail for 4 days,
What the fuck?
and yeah, and then I was like, oh, dude, well, I gotta get out of
Have
here,
you
and so
written a
I
book yet?
no.
You need to write a book, dude. You're already blowing my mind. I'm sad that we only have an hour.
And then,
How do you? Okay, let's stop
well,
for a second.
I was supposed to
Tangent
only be
off.
in jail. Um, I was supposed to be in jail for 4 days, but I would have had to face uh trial or go to see a judge eventually.
Uh-huh.
But someone could have come bail me out because it wasn't like super serious. It was like and but they called my family. I gave them a phone number I could remember because they take your cell phone. Was my
No.
family's house in Ottawa,
Hmm.
and they call that. My brother picked up. My brother has like pretty severe autism, and we always pretend that we're Bert and Ernie on the phone. And then they asked if Graham was there, and he said, "No, I don't know a Graham, but I know a Bert." And then they were like, "This is a whatever. This is a drug house," and they hung up. And then
Oh,
I was just in jail for like almost a week
oh
in
man.
Brooklyn.
Oh God. How do you end up punching a cop?
They attacked me from behind. They were wearing plain clothes. They
Oh,
didn't
okay.
announce themselves.
So they hit you first, and you're like, "Fuck
Yeah, yeah.
this."
I got off
Yeah.
because of it. But there was my public attorney said like that there was like a I don't know if she lied, but she said that there was a corner store across the street that caught it on their security footage. And
Oh.
and so anyway, yeah, they have like they had stop and frisk. There was a guy, there's a presidential candidate named Michael Bloomberg, he used to be the mayor of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why he basically lost the candidacy to Joe Biden 4 years ago or 5 years ago now, I guess, was because of
Really?
that stop and frisk campaign he had in New York. That I got
Mm-hmm.
like at the end of every month, all these police precincts needed to get, they just had to arrest a certain amount of people. So if you were outside late at night at the end of the month, you had to be very careful because police had to arrest you or they would lose their job.
That's insane.
Yeah,
That's a wild incentive.
yeah.
Oh my God. No fuck way. That's nuts, dude. When I asked you about the one word, because that's kind of like I feel like there's so many podcasts where I'm like, I gotta have some semblance of a
Some
theme.
hook,
Other
some sick hook.
some sick hook,
Yeah.
something about the podcast that makes people want to watch me over somebody else. But what was your
Mm.
one word?
Um, one word, enjoy.
Enjoy. Nice.
Yeah,
I like that. So what do you like about the word enjoy? Why does that word stick out to you?
because all those stories I told you were kind of crazy,
Hmm.
but they're all, each moment was a very enjoyable era of my life. And you just have to like enjoy the ride, you know. If you're especially if you are lucky enough to be doing something that you love for a living, you know, it's really really awesome. Really, really lucky and awesome
Hmm.
that I get to do this, that I get to live this life. And you just gotta, enjoy it. I mean, it's not always gonna break the way you want. Um, but if you enjoy it and you work hard, and if you are as good as you think you are, think good things will happen.
Yeah, I fully believe
That's
that too.
yeah,
My like I went through a period of like, pessimism that everybody has like a period of pessimism where they think like everything sucks and what maybe that's like your teen years usually or like
yeah,
you kind of like pissing and moaning about every little thing and like and then the older I got I'm the more I'm like I'm gonna just fully enjoy whatever good or bad is happening to me in the moment because
yeah,
eventually this is gonna be a memory that I come back to and cherry pick the best moments. And I go, oh, that was so much better than I thought it was at the time, you
yeah.
know?
You're gonna be so pissed when you're 50 that you weren't like, I should have been more excited when I was 28, when I was
Yeah,
30. Like I have the same life, but my ankles hurt. Like you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
it's like,
Even like you getting that offer to go to Costa Rica and you're mad because like, oh, I blew all the 2 grand that I saved up. It's like when you're 50, you might, if you didn't do that, you might have gone, I should have fucking done that. I should
oh,
have gone to Costa Rica when I was younger, you know?
oh no, no. I've never regretted going there and I never will. That it was awesome. Yeah, it's like you got it when that happens in your life, that's 2 months. That's nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if you're a single mother, the 2 grand means a lot or whatever. But if you're just a dude who lives in Canada,
Yeah.
who grew up with like, relatively speaking, compared to America, very cheap secondary, post-secondary education, you're not, you just 2 grand, just go, man,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing. It's nothing. 2 months is nothing. So it's like, I don't know. You gotta do those kind of things. Yeah, enjoy it.
Comics have that.
Even if you're
Um,
like not making a living, if you're just like on stage,
mhm.
or if you're like an open mic guitar player and you're just like playing guitar for like four drunk guys. It's awesome.
Enjoy it.
You're gonna
Yeah.
get better doing that.
100%. And I feel like a lot of performers have that issue though, where they can't enjoy time not spent working on their passion or their craft, which
Yeah,
I'm trying to get better at, like just being a normal person and not
it's really tough. It's
because
why, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because like if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're just what's the alternative? You're gonna feel guilt for not working. Like you can't expect yourself to work 24/7.
I mean, you have to be passionate about stuff that if it's like comedy or something that is really hard to do because if you don't have passion, you're gonna quit, you know? But
Hmm.
there it like my cousin is a cop and he was like, you know, dude, like when I get off work, I'm done. And then it just never stops. And it's like, yeah, it never stops. I'm always thinking about it. When does it stop? Nate Bargatze is really good at golf, and he's obsessed. He gets obsessed with things. And I was like, "What do you like about golf so much?" He's like, "Hey man, it's the only time in my life like where I can't think about comedy. I can't think about my like like jokes or this. Like, what should I be doing here? You know, like what move should I make with my career? You know, it's just like the ball, you know, you have to think about it. You have to quiet your brain. So he's walking around in the sun, but when he's done 18 holes, he has more energy because his brain just took a 5 hour break
Yes,
from
yeah.
that just never ending, you know, and that's like meditation is good for that kind of stuff. I don't do that. But like you know, I have a I got hip surgery recently because I was playing too much basketball and on an old injury that I got when I was 19 and my body eventually was like, peace, we're out, dude. And it's because my thing was basketball. Is like
Mhm.
I needed that was like when my brain was quiet. I'm gonna have to just start reading more, I think, because I can't play basketball anymore. I need like a break from this incessant monastic pursuit of comedy.
The other thing too is like once you start traveling to do comedy, you're going to all these different places and like maybe you spend a couple days in one place or you do a weekend somewhere. Is there anywhere that you like really enjoy going, not just because of the comedy club there, but because you like the city or you like, checking out a certain thing that they have?
Um, I like coming back to Toronto because I love Toronto. I just still have some friends there. I like being back to Canada in general. I like Denver a lot. Denver's a fun place to do comedy. Crowds are really good. Scene's really good there. I like to go to a place where the scene is really good.
Mm.
The comedy scene is really good. Even if the city isn't as like fun, it's more fun for me if it's got a good scene because
Hmm.
if it's got a good scene, that means I can do little bar shows. That means that I'll hang out with other comedians. It's like being part of a fraternity. So Denver's like one of those things, and it's like one of those. I like to go to LA. I love to go to LA in the winter, obviously, for just obvious reasons.
Yeah, 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 it's just the
Um,
best.
yeah,
Now, I wanted to ask you too about your comedy special because you filmed it in a bowling alley. How
yeah,
did you come across this place? Were you a regular at this bowling alley and you did the typical comedian thing of, I think I could do comedy in here?
yeah. Well, it is got a bowl. It's I did it in like back room theater space
Of
of
a
a
bowling alley?
bar that has a bowling alley attached to the bar.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like it's like this like hipster bar in Brooklyn where they do CYSK, which is comedians you should know. It's a weekly show. It's like a really hot like Brooklyn show, not a comedy club, but like a bar show kind of thing.
Cool.
And you know, it's like a big bar and then they have this like they have 4 lanes of a bowling alley from the 1970s. They from the Midwest somewhere. They just like took all the boards up and all the old computers and put them in there. And then in the other side, like 200 feet away, like behind 4 other doors, is a little theater in a back room. that can like seat like 120 people.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was dope. And I was like, I can do a special here.
Yeah. Yeah, the backdrop looks sick. That's what I love
Yeah.
too when comedians find like different spaces to shoot specials. Because I think like a lot of people will shoot a special in the same place, but not change any of the background.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make it like unique in that way, you know?
There's about 10 comedians since then have shot a special
Mm,
in that space, and they've all changed the background, and it's kind of
good.
fun. You could like see mine, Graham K. Live in a bowling alley. Django Gold did one. Kenny DeForest did one there. Alex
Damn.
Kuman did one there. And it's oh what's his name? Oh, anyway, there's like a bunch of people did their specials there, and they all it's like I don't know, this is like too old a reference, but it's like Marge's Chanel dress. How she just keeps changing it. She finds one in like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the rack, and then she gets in like a country club because her dress is nice. They think she's rich, and she keeps sewing it different ways. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I love that. Now, there's another question that I always ask my guests too, is if you can make a phone call to 15-year-old Graham and give him a piece of advice based on what you know now, knowing it won't affect your current timeline, what do you say?
Tell 15-year-old Graham what? Like any advice that, but it
Yeah.
wouldn't affect my current
Wouldn't
timeline or
affect
just any advice.
it wouldn't affect your timeline. So the reason why I add that caveat in is because people are like, invest in Bitcoin. And I'm like, that's not the advice that I'm looking for. You know what I mean? Like personal advice. And the reason why I say a 15-year-old version of yourself is because it's easier to put your mind at where you were at that age. And you
Totally.
can
It's a
actually
very good
give,
age.
more personalized advice.
Yeah. Like 8-year-old, you're like, um,
Stop
you
eating
should wash
cereal.
more. Uh, um, that's a really good question. I just be like, it's like really hard to when you're, it's just like career advice or just like when you're
Anything
15,
you
you,
want. Anything you
yeah, I
want.
just didn't know who I was. I knew I
Yeah.
was funny and I didn't know well, like what's my hook? Like why do people like me? I would say um you are cool and be more vulnerable. Ask people to hang out. Um yeah, make the first step. Don't always wait for them to make the first step to
Mm.
hang out. Don't be try and be so cool and mysterious. Like just, you know, go, hey man, you want to hang out? Yeah, let's show me. We should hang out. I'll give you a call. And people
Yeah.
always are like, oh yeah, man, yeah, yeah. But I would never do. I don't think I've done that like 3 times in my life now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I just wish I did that more, especially back then. Um,
That's something I could work on now.
totally, me too.
I get that. I feel that advice. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
reach out to people randomly. What's the worst that's gonna happen? They're gonna say they're busy. That's it.
I
All
sent a
right.
text today to a guy, and I was like, well, I'm a loser. Send.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he was
You
like,
feel
yeah,
it.
dude, let's hang. I was like, yes, a friend.
I'm not a
Awesome.
loser.
The kid's back.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's like it's just I would like to tell this 15-year-old kid that you can get a handle of your OCD, work at it. You're not crazy. You can
Mm.
do it. You can beat it yourself. And that's it.
How did you uh how did you find out that you had OCD?
Um I got sent to the like Ontario Children's Hospital around like 14 or 15, and then they gave me a pamphlet, like a bifolded pamphlet,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, that was
You just
it.
were
And
like, I
then
have all of this.
I was like, I have all of this.
Yeah.
And then yeah, then I got sent
I
to
hear that a lot with people who have ADHD. They read a pamphlet and they're like, this describes like who I am.
Yeah.
There's a
When I,
lot of people that didn't know that they have that kind of like, oh, that's why like I can never focus on a book
yeah.
for an extended
Yeah.
period of time.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
my knees are always like bouncing. Like whenever I'm
Hmm.
out and I see someone's knees at like the table just jumping up and down, I'm like, oh, okay, this person's like
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have
they got
it?
a
Yeah.
little fire in them right now.
Yeah. Yep.
So are
I
you
mean,
living
yeah.
in New York right now?
Hmm.
Nice. How long you been there?
Yep. 2017. I moved back in 2017.
Nice.
So been a long time now.
Yeah. And when did you know, like living in Toronto, that like, okay, now it's time to go back to New York because you went there first and then to Toronto?
I just was honestly trying to get a work visa as quick as possible. There was no
Hmm.
like, I'm ready. I was like, when I left New York, I was passed at 4 clubs. I had a bunch of friends who were like on their way to being famous, and half of them ended up becoming super famous. So I was like on track there, and I felt like um, I just had to get back as quick as possible. So uh, as soon as I got my visa, I left, and that's it. You know,
Wow.
it's been awesome.
No
And I
waiting
love
on that.
Toronto. Toronto was really cool. I remember being really worried. I'd never been to Toronto. I was worried about moving to a smaller city and moving to I don't know. I just thought it'd be like boring and gray and small compared to New York.
Hmm.
And it took me like a couple months, and I remember that it was like summer, and my friend invited me to some like outdoor swimming pool, and I was like, it was like, you know, it was just cool. It was like a cool vibe there, and there was like a CN Tower, and I was like, and like the streetcar came by, and I was like, I think Toronto's awesome. I think this is
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. You're like, this is a sick place.
I think this is cool.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then the scene is and was fantastic there. And I really, really, I think that maybe, I think that artistically speaking, it was a stroke of dumb luck
Mm.
that I moved to Toronto because I was like a guy who was just like hammering out 15-minute spots in New York and, really didn't know how to do to headline. And then I moved to Canada. Toronto was my base. And by the end of those 3.5 years, I was like a good headliner. And that would have never happened
Mm.
if I'd stayed. I would have been like opening for some famous guy, doing maybe half an hour, maybe 20 minutes, and just in New York hammering down 15-minute sets, super tight,
Yeah.
not really opening up, not no one really knows who I am, but like the jokes is really good and tight, but not knowing no one will, when you headline, you can kind of like this, I'm a human being, this is who I am, blah blah blah. You can
Yeah,
fit
yeah.
that in there.
Yeah, you got that time to sort of stretch your legs a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about Toronto made you feel like more of a headliner?
Smaller pool, bigger fish. So I was able to be a national headliner where in America I just didn't have the credits.
So that
So
was like a big thing.
I could sign up to Yuck Yucks, and I signed up to Yuck Yucks. And then, it's like a chain that doesn't really exist in America where you just get in the door and then you're being flown all over the country. That happens in Canada.
Hmm.
And, like, then first he had me as an opener, and I would like, fly around open for people. But still, I was excited because I was doing 25 minutes, half an hour, and I had never really done that long before, not that
Yeah.
often anyway. And then, um, they bumped me up to headliner fairly quickly, and then I was just, that 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 just doesn't. That's the kind of advantage Canada has.
Hmm.
There are a lot of disadvantages. There's no money, but there is quality stage time. There's a lot of like canvas for you to paint on, and a lot
I,
of like good other painters to show you how to do it, you
yeah,
know?
for real. Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
people that you can get connected with are unbelievable that like are still here, that are like
Yeah,
great comics. And
totally.
I'm feeling that about Ottawa too since moving here. Like the scene is like It's just getting better and better and better.
Totally. Dude, when
And
I started in Ottawa, I had to leave.
yeah, because there's
You could
nowhere for
only
you to do
perform
it.
twice a month.
Yeah, yeah,
You
it's
can't
crazy.
get better at anything if you do it uh 5 minutes twice a month.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
nothing in life you will get good at that amount of time.
No.
So yeah, now there's like three clubs. There's
Or
rooms. There's like
there's
actual comics. There's a scene, you know?
there's Yuck Yucks, Absolute, Laugh Lounge, and a new one that opened up called Cultures. So there's like four clubs, and then there's like a bunch of indie shows at
Hmm.
different bars and like themed shows too that like people
Yeah.
run. And then you've got like a whole scene popping up now in Cornwall. So there's even if you go like a little bit
Really?
south, yeah, yeah, there's a little scene in Cornwall now. So it's like
Cool.
you can go down to Cornwall and
And
do
do
like
some
some
spots.
decent time, do some
What,
spots.
how long is that? Like that's an hour
That's like
drive?
close to that 40, 45 minutes maybe.
Oh,
Like,
that's easy. That's
yeah,
great.
not bad at all. And
Not
then
bad at all.
Montreal's right there, and Montreal's always really cool and coming over to Ottawa too. And like
Yeah.
I like the scene in this area now.
Yeah. And so would you drive to Montreal to do spots and then drive back same day?
I have done that, but I prefer to like if I'm gonna do like Comedy Nest, I'm gonna try to get them to book me like
Yeah, weekend.
Wednesday,
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, or the whole weekend or whatever it is, and then just stay
Yeah.
at somewhere and find
Yeah.
somewhere to stay wherever.
Yeah. I mean, you get a
Yeah,
friend's couch or something
yeah,
or,
exactly.
you know, um, yeah, or yeah, that's awesome.
But
That's
New
so
York
awesome.
is where I want to end up just because of the fact that you can get better at comedy from being there with the amount of spots that they have there.
Yeah, I mean, the world is changing very rapidly, and everyone's like, you don't have to move to the major cities anymore. And I think that that is right only if your only goal is to become famous.
Sure. Yeah.
I think if you want to become famous, you don't have to move, but you will not be a good stand-up comedian. You'll be famous for having like a fun TikTok account,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you're going to learn the skills to like that are transferable to that, but not to stand-up comedy. I think you could be a decent stand-up comic if you're based in mid-tier city, but I don't think you can be a really good one, you know, in my opinion, just because there's just not as much stage time. There's not as much practice.
Yeah.
You know, there are like you can become really good in Vancouver, Toronto, New York, LA, Chicago, Denver,
Yeah.
London,
Boston.
England, Boston. You can become pretty good in, but you can be it. That's the next tier.
Hmm.
Boston, and then like Philly, but like those are the towns where you can become pretty good in. You know, like I would throw that next tier like Boston, Philly, um, uh, Calgary. I throw that in that next tier where you can get pretty good, but you're gonna have to move like Ottawa, you know, at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because before social media or any of that shit, when I wanted to start doing comedy at like 19, the goal was to become great at it, not to
Yeah,
become good at like being a video editor or whatever the fuck you have to do
yeah,
now. Like,
yeah, I know.
these weird side effects that happen
Yeah,
with comedy. It's like, thanks, Andrew Schultz. Like,
yeah, yep.
made everybody have to get down to the 1 minute clip.
I started with him. I took a comedy class with him.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Always very motivated,
Yeah.
very clear on what he wanted to do from the get-go. Have goals. If you're listening to this and you're a young comic or young anything, have goals. If you're starting out on something. I had goals and but he was more meticulous with his goals, I think.
I think it's about
And
moving the goals too, like achieve
that's
them and
right.
then create new ones. Like you have
A
to keep
hundred percent.
moving the post.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, you get complacent because you're like, well, I
That's right.
achieved everything I wanted to achieve. I guess I'm just going to plateau now.
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to move the goals.
Yeah, man.
Give you
It's
something to
exciting.
do.
Gives you
Yeah, it's
something to
exciting.
chase after. We're just
Yeah.
dogs chasing cars here.
Yeah. What else are we doing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm going to share your stuff so that people watching on YouTube can check you out. It's grahamk.com to see Graham live once he's back up and at 'em. You've
Yeah,
got
once my legs work again.
Mr. Graham K on Instagram, Graham K Comedy on YouTube. Check out that special live in a bowling alley. It's on the YouTube page. And you're still doing your podcast too, right?
I am.
Autastic.
Yeah, we do it. We do it about once a fortnight.
Nice.
Um, it's going pretty good.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's about autism awareness.
I love that. Theming
Yeah.
the episode, theming the podcast. That's what we were just
Yeah.
talking about before. It's OK Graham K on TikTok and Mr. Graham K as well on Twitter or X. Yeah. Thanks for doing the podcast, man. Really appreciate.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
When are you when are y'all healed up? When are you getting back out there?
I should be walking normally in about a month.
Okay.
So we're excited for that, you know.
Yeah.
And then I should be back to doing my 360 slam dunks in about 6 months.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
For now, it's all taking place on NBA 2K.
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I hope you have a great rest of your night. I'll send this podcast over to you once it's all edited and its premiere date. It'll probably be in February.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Thanks again for coming on. And for those of you watching, listening, hit that subscribe button, leave a 5-star review. But until next time, take it easy. You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.